Hello everybody. Just thought I'd do a quick talking head episode to share with you what I picked up at Dollar Tree today. It is Friday, April the 6th, 2018. And I stopped by Dollar Tree and look what I found on sale for like 50% off. So that's, instead of $1, these things were only 50 cents. Yeah, they say milk chocolate flavored, so it's not real milk chocolate. Mostly says sugar, hydrogenated vegetable oil, palm kernel and or palm, whey, cocoa processed with alkali, skim milk, lactose, soy lecithin, which is an emulsifier, and vanilla with an artificial flavor. It's not even real vanilla. Anyhow, I bought all these Easter candies from Dollar Tree for only 50 cents. Decided to get 4 of them. So, hey, I'm missing one. One must have fell out inside the house somewhere. But anyhow, I bought 4 for $2 because they were 50 cents each, plus some pocket change. I think that's a pretty good deal, right? If you like sweets, so I'll keep these handy for little snacks. But anyhow, I wanted to share with you some thoughts and wanted to do a talking head episode because some people have written me and some have expressed, I guess, fears about van dwelling and about life in general. And I've been tuning into this channel because I feel that the information that I provide is somehow beneficial. And I thought I would take a moment to address, some of these concerns. Specifically, I'm doing this video for Paper Clown and Dane and several others who have wondered why I've kind of disappeared and or are out on the road themselves right now, or we're planning on living in a van and finding it to be a really scary thought. The reality of it all is this: I ended up doing this channel and living in a van not by choice, okay? If I had a choice, I would live in a house, I'd probably be a normal house for now because of the situation with having to see my kids and having to live in this area here in Melbourne, in Florida here. But if I had a choice, I would live in a house because I like to have a house. But I ended up living in a van for this channel because of the circumstances and what happened to me. That pretty much put me into a situation where I essentially was a homeless vet and all I had was my van. Now, I have had previous experiences living in a van, not full-time, but from configuring the van to travel. So, if it looks like I sort of know what I'm doing, although I don't know everything, it's because I've been living in a van on and off for about 10 years now. Maybe I'll do some episodes where I show you some previous builds. I have some older videos I can dig up of like Hannah, the Pontiac, Montana. I don't think I ever did any of Phoenix. I had a Dodge Ram, I think it was a 1200 or 1500. B1200 or B1500, I don't know. But I had several other vans that I had lived in temporarily, full-time, and of course vans that I had configured just for travel. But for those of you who are new to van dwelling, the first thing is this. One, it's all up here. It's in your head, okay? If you're nervous about the situation and afraid of things that can go wrong, because believe me, things will go wrong. If you've been following me at all, then you know that is true. Things always go wrong. But it's a matter of how we address the things that can go wrong and deal with those situations that do go wrong. Now, my advice is this. If you're nervous about van dwelling, okay, and are afraid and have access to a house or, regular sticks and bricks place where you can stay and live in, don't live in a van. Live in a sticks and bricks, okay? Life should not be one where you're living in fear, where you're, uncertain. And if you can control that uncertainty in any given way, you should take advantage of that opportunity. You can see I'm currently staying at Walter's house because I have the choice, because Walter gave me that choice. And I would rather be here than living in the van unless I'm traveling and, you know, camping out or doing something van related. Now, I still do go out in my van and still occasionally take a nap in it at work. when I have one of those temp jobs that they give me a lunch break where I can actually have my own time, 30 minutes. But don't think that because you thought you wanted to live in a van that you are forced to have to live in a van because you made that decision. If you have the opportunity to backtrack and get into sticks and bricks, do that. But now with that said, I will still say this though. Okay, living in a van does give you a lot of freedom because you do know where you're going to be staying. You do know that having a van that you've configured for living in is like having a tiny little house that you can travel in. Now, a lot of van dweller channels tend to glamorize this, especially the younger ones, the younger group with the, you know, usually a single girl or a single guy or a single girl and a single guy. I'm not sure if those people are true van dwellers, although they could be. But I think for the most part, a lot of those channels that glamorize it don't truly live in a van. They may have another source of income or something that comes in because unless you're one of those big channels, and what's crazy is those channels with those young people do make quite a bit of money. They get all sorts of corporate sponsors because they look good, you know, they look good on camera, and they get millions of views and hundreds of thousands of followers. But a typical van dweller will have a hard time creating a YouTube channel to get any substantial following. This channel, I'm surprised, has gotten to over 6,000. I think as I do this video, we're at more than 6,500 followers, you know, viewers or followers who have subscribed, which to me is amazing. But van dwelling is a very niche market. So if you're looking to make money off YouTube on van dwelling, this probably isn't the best avenue. The reason is you're already looking at a very small segment of the population that would even consider doing something like this. So those are your big potential audience members. Okay, if you're looking to travel and do stuff like similar to van dwelling but have the money, it may be better to get an RV and do an RV channel. That's a lot more mainstream. And there's like this lizard. I don't know if he's flirting with me or what, but he's so he's showing his. He's just sitting right here, checking me out. And there he is, just looking at me and putting on a little show here. But anyhow, sorry about that. I got distracted. If you're wanting to make money off traveling and stuff like that, I think it's going to be a little bit easier if you have an RV. There's a larger base of potential audience members versus van dwelling. But you know, the RV channels tend to do very well just because there's so many people there that people will tune in. People are interested in camping and stuff. Not everyone wants to live in a van, but a lot of people like to travel in a van or an RV or a camper to save money, you know. Now, that would be the way that I would suggest making money off a channel like this. The Living in a Van channel, as you see it right now, is starting to make some money and is currently pretty much my sole source of income, and it's not making much. I think I'm making like an average of about $400 to $550 a month. That's what I'm living off, and using that to pay mostly child support and Walter's rent. My wife is contributing some to the living expenses, paying bills and whatnot, so that's how we're able to afford to live here for now. But obviously, with only the money from the Living in a Van channel coming in, it's a real struggle, which is why you see me working so hard right now. Well, you probably don't see it, but it's behind the scenes work to try to tag my videos so that the channel will grow a bit faster, and I might actually make a decent amount of money to pay child support and income for the rent for Walter, you know, until he moves back, which I don't know when. I've heard from Walter, but he hasn't told me when he'll be back yet. He's still currently handling his business up north. But I decided to revive my other channel which used to be The Presumed Guilty, which had the background story of everything that I took down. Then was changed to Winds of Change because I thought there was real change coming, and it did. I mean, I'm here at Walter's house and not living in the van full-time anymore, or hanging out at the yurt hiding from the swamp. Was it the swamp ape? Is that what that's called? I forget what the animal is called. That's pretty bad, isn't it? But anyhow, we're here at Walter's house, so I guess things have changed quite a bit. But I'm getting ready to make the new channel, and we're calling it Footprints in the Sand, to separate this channel's content so that this channel will do mostly van related stuff, you know, van dwelling, survival, you know, living in a van type things, because the channel is called Living in a Van, and I've had quite a bit of complaints from people saying that, you know, they came here to watch van dwelling related stuff, and they don't want to really see my ASMR videos or my mukbang videos, or where I just talk randomly about certain things. So by creating that channel, I'll have a more general purpose channel that may be more general interest to the populace as well. Now that I've learned a bit about properly tagging YouTube videos and promoting them and making them appear on the YouTube search, it opens up the possibility that I could actually try to make a living from YouTube. The biggest issue will be whether or not people will find it, you know, interesting enough for them to tune in, subscribe, and keep coming back. Speaking of subscribing and coming back, let's address now some issues that some of you may have with being frightened about living in a van for the first time. If you can, I actually recommend practicing. You know, I think you should try it out to see if you can do it. You can get a van rental if need be. U-Haul rents a van for like $20. You can rent it, you know, $20 a day, $19.95, and just park it in your driveway and put a sleeping bag in it. Maybe some mattresses, and see if you can sleep in it and how it feels. Maybe try to park at the local Walmart parking lot and lay out there and see if you can deal with it. It's not as simple as a lot of the channels make it, especially if you're up north right now having to deal with the cold. Now, one of the subscribers, I think, said they're living in a car, which to me is like really, really bad. I mean, if you had to and it was an emergency, it is a survival shelter. It's one step better, I think, than being out on the street itself, living in the street. But if you can, you probably want to get into a shelter or something if you're doing this in an emergency situation and living in a car. A van, even a minivan, offers quite a bit more room than a car, so you can get a little bit more comfortable. The other thing you need to know is that, you know, even though we say you're living in a van or living in a car, you're not really living in it. You're kind of using it to hold your things and to sleep in. That's why it's important to try to get into a van if you can, if you're planning on living in your vehicle and not a car, because cars tend to be really small. Unless you're a really small person and can sleep comfortably, most people would be crunched. I tried to live in a, when I was down in Jupiter, Florida, working as a mailman. I was working then, but because of child support and everything else, I wasn't really making that much money. I tried to live in a car. I had like a, I don't know, it was a 99 or 2000 BMW. It was that old one that I had bought. But I had tried to live in it, but because of Jupiter and how that area is, it's kind of high-end, expensive area. The police are always on the lookout for anything weird. I had to make the BMW stealth, which meant that I couldn't show any signs that somebody was living in it. So I couldn't rip out the back seats and punch a hole through to the trunk or anything like that. I had to leave everything intact, looking like a normal car. And it was horrendous. I lasted 3 days. I tried to sleep in it, and it was so tight. It was so hot. I had my fan with my portable battery pack, and it still was too hot. Because this is Florida, mind you, and it was South Florida. So after 3 days of not sleeping and still needing to work as a mailman, I decided to go ahead and look up on Craigslist and found a room for rent for, I think it was like $300, $400 a month, which is what I ended up doing. I rented the room for $300 or $400 before I ended up moving up here into Brevard County. But long story short, okay, and I seem to do a lot of long stories. Get so distracted. if you don't want to live in a vehicle, or you're having apprehensions and you have access to a house or a shelter, go to the house or shelter. Keep the van and vehicle as an option and practice living in it. Maybe take it out camping and see how you can, like it, how much you like it. The issue with dealing with cold temperatures and stuff, I don't recommend trying to live in a vehicle in cold temperatures if you're not prepared, if you don't have like adequate money and for it to get a heating system like a Mr. Buddy or something. And even then you need to make sure you get a carbon monoxide detector and fresh batteries and have good adequate ventilation, because you can die from that. If it were me and I was living in a vehicle and it was cold and my vehicle ran, I would head south. I would head away from the cold area. I would not try to live in freezing or really cold temperatures, because I can stand heat, but cold, I really couldn't. I mean, I had to do it when I was doing the knife gig in Central Florida, North Central Florida, when it got into the 30s or the 20s. I think it was even below 30s. Got to like 28 degrees, I think. And it was horrendous. So those of you who are dealing with the cold, wow. I'm impressed and sad in a way. I mean, it's like, especially if you're freezing, because I know how that feels, having slept in the vehicle for what I think it was like about a week and a half, where the temperatures were near freezing or sub-freezing. The lizard is like watching me. He really is watching me. I mean, look, he's just sitting here watching me and showing his little thing, and I think he's just curious. It's like, who is this guy? What's he doing? But that would be my word advice, is basically, if you're homeless or about to be homeless and have an option to go into a shelter, that would be my recommendation, to do that. If you're looking to get into a van, you want to make sure that you're prepared and have money, because you can see there's all sorts of potential problems that can occur, like I am having right now, even with Little Blue 2, it's been blowing smoke, then it doesn't blow smoke, and it's blowing smoke, and it may be the last time you see Little Blue, because it may be dead. But honestly, as I'm making this video, she came back to life again. I added some new gas, and she's running fine again. So I don't know what's going on. But I will tell you this, okay? And this is probably the biggest secret, if you want to call it that. The most important knowledge I can give you is this. No matter where you live or what you do, your attitude, your outlook, your views are what's most important. Don't let situations scare you to the point where you're immobilized and you don't know what to do and you're afraid to move. Because fear itself is like your worst enemy. Now, I've got a lot of stuff going on right now, and some of it is pretty scary, but for the most part, I trust in God, not for the most part, I fully trust in God. I wouldn't even be alive and here right now if not for God and His kindness and His compassion and His guidance. Also, knowing that the worst thing that can ever happen to you, really, ultimately, is you die. And then your life here on earth ends. But knowing that I'll be with God again, it makes life and all its little things, even if they seem scary and bad right now, or even sad, bearable. So, I'm not saying to accept situations when they're bad. You should be looking at where you want to go, but don't just dream about where you want to go. Look at the steps it would take to get there. And if one of those steps involves living in a van, like some people are doing to save money, then that's what you need to keep in mind, that living in a van isn't a full-time, permanent situation. This is a halfway step that you're doing to get to your final destination, your final goal in life, what you want your life to be like. For me, living in a van is something that I do enjoy. I know that even, when I get my own house, sticks and bricks, I'll probably convert a van for living in and traveling in, because I enjoy it. not because I would have to do it. Although from this channel, from what you've been watching, it's been because of the latter, because I had to live in it, and that's why it had an emergency look and feel about it, and even the video quality kind of reflects that. I was forced into the situation with virtually no job, no money, no income at all, and I only had like about $2 in my pocket when we started. And here I am right now, almost in the same situation. Almost in the same situation, except, look, I'm over at Walter's house. The birds are chirping all around me. I do have a job, and that is to get rid of this tree still. And the YouTube channel that wasn't intended to make money is making a little bit of money. Not a lot, but hopefully enough to help me with making child support payments so they don't take away my driver's license. And trying to get the income up to the point where we can actually maybe pay for things. So I could have sat there and just freaked out when everything fell apart, and all that I would have accomplished was I would have freaked out and not had all these opportunities to share my life and experiences with you and to make so many new friends. So my best advice to you is stay positive. Look at your current situation, where you want to go and where you want to be and how you want your life to be, and work towards it. Now, if you want to be happy, you know, you might think that having a nice home and having money and all these things makes you happy. It doesn't. You know, you've seen famous people, celebrities, rich people, sad, and some of them, you know, get so sad they don't want to live anymore. So it's not about money, it's not about all that, it's about your state of mind. You are in charge of that, and you can decide what kind of life you want. If you are looking at living in a van as an adventure, as an opportunity to test your limits, as an opportunity to learn and grow as a person, this is a great opportunity. You know, I've really had to test myself and really think about how I approach and do things, and learned a lot about myself and about other people in the process, and still learning about the van and what white smoke means when it's coming out of your exhaust. So stay positive. Don't let it bring you down. And you know, if you can, continue to watch the videos on this channel as well as other channels that inspire you, that give you hope, and share their knowledge, because I think that one of the worst things you can have in life is to feel like you're all alone and not know what to do. Well, YouTube to an extent helps by letting people share their own lives and their experiences with others, so that viewers can benefit from it and learn from it, and possibly avoid certain situations, you know, and make their own life better. I know I rambled a lot in this video, but there was a lot of things I wanted to cover. But the main one I will have to say is this, you know, don't be afraid. Don't let fear rule your life. And look at the situation. If you're in an area that's cold and you're in a van, try to head out of that situation. Head away from there if you can. If you can't do that, you're going to have to make it work somehow. And that means looking up videos on how to stay warm in a vehicle, in a van. Be aware of carbon monoxide poisoning. My recommendation, though, is if you're in a situation where you're in a survival mode and you're forced to live in a vehicle, you really need to be in a better environment than like a freezing or sub-freezing area. You will die in that. Or you can try to heat yourself up and end up dying trying to heat yourself up. So in that case, look for shelters. Contact the churches. Contact the city. Call and ask. Don't be afraid. Remember, if you're in that situation, this is a temporary phase in life. Things change, and things can change very suddenly. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But your attitude and your outlook is the one thing that you can control, regardless of what's happening all around you. So once you know that, and realize that how you see things and how you approach life is up to you, suddenly fear doesn't have a hold on you anymore, and you can face most anything. The reason is it's as it should be, you know, and you do what you can to affect your life the way you want it to, and what you can't do anything about, you put in the hands of God. And that's why I think the poem Footprints in the Sand was very important to me, because it is how I live my life. Once I realized that God was always there and is there right now, that everything will be alright. So until next time, everybody, I hope that this video calmed you down a little bit, and gave you at least a chance to look at your own situation and reflect to decide what you need to do to have the life you want to have. Take care, everybody.